or start broadcast button.
All right,
So I
that's
don't miss
fine.
anything. So we're being recorded right now.
All right.
I got a little bit of a headache.
Oh,
Have you
sorry.
have you ever had have you ever had a hangover but you without ever drinking?
Mm, those are the worst, right? Like I
I,
didn't
I
even get the good part.
I didn't know it was even possible, but like all today I've like just my heartbeat has been like beat into my head and I'm kind of cranky, but I'm gonna. Hey, welcome.
Yeah, I fought through a couple days like that before. You're like, why? I shouldn't have a hangover. I didn't even drink yesterday. This isn't
Yeah,
fair.
yeah, I might as well go hard if I'm gonna feel like this, you know? Like that. What's that movie, Hangover? Like, yeah, the whole Tyson, the tiger, like all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Why be responsible if I gotta feel like crap anyway?
Thank you. So, where are you at? You're in the States? Or are you in London or Europe
No,
somewhere?
I'm in Chicago. I
Okay.
am I am being busy in the process of being snowed in at the moment.
Oh man, that's too bad. I wonder what it'd be like in warm Miami Beach for it to like be snowed in and but
Is that where you're at? Is Miami?
yeah, yeah. I'm in
Uh,
Miami right now. But I mean I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Cleveland.
okay.
So yeah, I came down here just so that I wouldn't get cold. You know,
And
I don't like shaving ice off my windshield. I don't like any of that.
yeah, I just came in this morning. I made sure to clean myself all up. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna try to do this online conversation thing, and then we were running a little behind and came for swimming lessons and with the kids. Come back, I'm like, and I have to shovel. I'm gonna be just finishing shoveling my driveway before I do this, which is what I was doing 10 minutes ago.
Uh,
So
and
you're not getting my best look.
nine times out of ten, you're probably going to be doing it again tomorrow morning.
Oh yeah, of course. It's still
Yeah.
snowing.
Chicago, Chirac. Have you heard that term, Chirac?
Not until the movie came out. I mean,
There's
I
a
live in the
movie.
burbs though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Spike Lee made a movie last year called Chirac.
Apparently, it didn't make it to the big screen. I'm gonna have to look that up.
I think it was a big screen movie. I mean, limited release artsy film, but
I mean,
yeah,
what is it, a documentary?
I don't know.
You
I
know what
don't think
Chirac
so.
is, right? The
Well,
Chirac I'm talking about.
that's the only way I've heard it. I assume it was a Chicago.
Oh shoot, I lost you. Microphone check. No, I can't hear you. Can you go to settings on this Google Hangout? Hello.
Oh, there we go.
All right, we're
Am I
good.
back now? Yeah, I
Yeah,
bumped my
yeah, yeah.
headset. That's what I get
I
for losing this video game one.
no, I was gonna say I learned about Chirac by like watching YouTube videos on the various gang shootings in Chicago, and apparently the urban parts of Chicago received the nickname Chirac. So
Yeah, I never heard it until the movie came out, though. So I don't know how.
okay, so you're not affiliated with any gangs or anything.
No, no, I'm not. I live out in the city. So I just don't tell people I live in Lake Zurich because then they go, where? They're like, people know where Chicago is. And I work in Chicago, close enough.
Yeah, so like there's a company that I was supposed to have an interview with in Chicago, and they're like a Microsoft partner, and this is supposed to be like a mobile app development full time position that I was going to interview for, and like so I vented Friday or yesterday, one of these days. I think it was Friday. I posted a YouTube video that was like 7 8 minutes because
Oh, I think I saw that
you saw
about like
that.
F sharp. Yeah, F sharp. I didn't. I like. I saw that you posted the YouTube video. I can't claim I watched it.
No, no, don't worry about that. But ah, have you ever hired someone? Like, have you ever made the decision or been part of a tribunal in which your decision really mattered if someone was worth
Yeah,
either interviewing or actually hiring?
yeah. Actually, the way we do hiring at Eighth Light, it's always kind of a tribunal.
Okay.
Um, which sounds a little more Spanish Inquisition like when you put it that way.
Well, so like I'm curious what your thoughts are, right? Everybody is taking the company side. Um, and so like I was like frustrated because I decided to prepare for the technical phone screening. Okay.
Okay.
And so, and I decided to record myself preparing for it. Okay. This is something
Yeah.
that they did not ask me to do, right? They didn't ask me to send them a mixtape of me writing an application from scratch and
Right.
me implementing various whatever Xamarin Forms features, that are very useful that were derived from WPF, like data template selector, all that stuff, all that XAML stuff. They didn't I was not asked to give them anything, right? But
Right.
I was preparing for this technical interview, and I'm like, well, hell's bells. I'm getting more active on this YouTube. Yo, I'm about to live stream me writing some live code. And this is me trying to prophesy the type of question. And yo, I'm going to go ahead and do it. But I was feeling really cranky, kind of like how I'm feeling right now, where I'm like, I feel like I'm so I'm so far, or I'm so deep in my career. I can't believe I still have to do programming exercises for employers. Like, I've been maintaining a technical blog for like 2 years. So I'm saying this at the intro of my video. Like,
Oh, okay.
oh, I can't believe I still have to do this, right? I finished the video, right? And to clarify, I wasn't thinking about sending them a link to the video. That wasn't my original intent. My intent was just to save this into my technical blog so I could reference it, or other people can reference it. Either they can learn from it, or I can learn from it by them providing me feedback on what I did wrong. But once I recorded it, I'm like, yo, this might actually be useful to them. And I
Mm-hmm.
had recorded two of them, right? And so I went ahead and sent the recruiter the links so that she could forward it to them. And apparently, they looked at the first video. They observed me venting about how I'm too good to be doing programming exercises for any client, right? Again, I wasn't thinking at the time. I wasn't going to give them the video, right? Because I wasn't even thinking about them. This is just me doing my thing, kind of like you and I are talking or whatever, except I'm by
Yeah.
myself and I'm thinking out loud, because that's what happens when you record a video by yourself. You think out loud, right? So to make a long story short, on Friday or Thursday, Thursday, they canceled the interview, and the recruiter said that they claimed something came up, and then I was updated on Friday like, yeah, Scott, they don't like you. I'm like, I haven't interviewed with them yet. This is my second. This is my second
How could they not
technical.
like me?
Yeah, this is my second technical interview. Right. The first one was just conversation, and them trying to figure out where I'm at technically. But this one was like writing code for them. And I'm like, they don't like me. They saw your video and they think you're too negative. Well, excuse me for being a human being. Like, I want to see how they behave around their wife 24 hours a day. You know what I mean? So, all right, I'm done venting. But like, they're
I
complaining about
I
something
actually
that was not originally intended for them, but they could use that information to prep themselves for the questions that they're going to ask me, and like that's for their advantage. Like, I don't get it. I'm too logical.
at the end of the day, see the problem I would have is why did the recruiter not watch it first? Because
Yeah,
that
but I try to hold myself accountable, so I'm not going to blame the recruiter.
I wouldn't necessarily blame him either. But if they had watched it first, because that's like right, like I could see where like it makes sense. Like I totally get where you're coming from, right? Like you just sort of were talking as you made the video, but once you send them a video, you've given them something to make information on. Now you could say, well, that's like it makes perfect sense to say, well, someone else didn't send them anything, so they have no knowledge of that person,
Yeah.
right? Like that
No
person
good
may,
deed goes unpunished.
right,
That's a prime example.
right. Like that person is all smiling happy in some video they make, and then they go home and kick their puppies, right? Like they can, and rob liquor stores to make money on the side, but they don't have that information. So when you're doing interviewing, it's always like, I'm gonna give you the exact amount you need and filter everything.
And when I say I'm a human being, I'm a human being. Like, I have mood swings. I have a hangover that did not come from me drinking. Like, there's certain things that go on where I'm sorry, I'm not Mary Poppins 24 hours a day. Like, but you know what? When you put me in a professional environment, I handle myself professionally. And that's the
Interviews
truth.
are
Like, dude, this is really personal what we're doing, right? You're in a hoodie. This is really me being casual. Usually, I had Mark Seaman on here. I was in a wife beater. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm trying to be transparent. I'm trying to be myself, because sooner or later, people are going to see through it anyway, right? Which is a huge challenge with putting yourself out there on social media. It's still a journey.
Oh yeah, it's funny because, like if you were there 2 days and you did the same grumbling, nobody would care. Nobody would think twice about it, right? They'd be like, oh well, big deal. He was, having a rough morning. No one, it wouldn't even cross anyone's head, right? But because at interview stage, people are always looking for reasons not to hire. Yeah, it's always looking for reasons to disqualify. And it's kind of unfortunate that that's the way it is. So one of the things of the company I work at Eighth Light is that's generally speaking not how we hire. Although we make everybody do a coding exercise, and actually we make it clear that everyone has to do it, which helps a little bit, because if you have some people that didn't have to do it, then like anyone you bring on with experience is going, well, how come so and so didn't have to? And so our CEO can pull out the same coding exercise that he had to do like when they founded the company. So that it makes a bit of a difference when people are like, well, I've been around for a long time, I don't want to do this. We're like, yeah, we know, but we do it for everybody, and we can show you that we've done it for everybody. I've done it, and I so that helps some. We've changed our coding exercise a lot though over the years.
More complicated.
No, it's actually, I'd almost argue it's less complicated. What we actually ask people to do now is refactor some existing code and get feedback, because what we're really trying to learn about is how feedback works back and forth. When you give someone a completely blank slate of like solve a problem, and if you're, say you got budget for 3 spots and you give 3 people the same problem, whoever comes back first has an advantage. That's not fair, though. The person who came in, who got it done first, might very well just Google the solution and spent their time tweaking the variable name so you wouldn't find it. And the person who took longer may have, who knows, they had a wedding to go to, right? Like they didn't have the time available to them to dedicate to it. It's not really well reflective of quality there. I mean, we are almost never in a situation where we're trying to hire just one person, fortunately, because of the way the company grows. But
so how do you feel about, I bombed my last programming exercise to qualify for an interview with this company on the East Coast that specializes in F#. You can guess who that is. So I bombed the programming exercise, and again, I try to always hold myself accountable. But like the programming exercise was really like data structures and algorithms based. And again, so what? I'm a programmer, but I have never messed with multi-dimensional arrays since I was in college. And so like it was so foreign to me, but this was their test. And because I bombed
so did you have to,
what's up?
That was it. So the question, did you have to do it like live, or was it like here's oh, see, I hate live coding.
I was
live coding's.
It was Friday. It was midnight Saturday. So meaning like Friday night at 11:59. The next minute it became Saturday morning. Midnight. Yeah. That was the start of my programming interview, and it was outsourced to another
programming
company.
Interview at midnight?
Because I accidentally clicked the wrong item in the schedule and I couldn't edit it.
Okay, I guess can't hold that one, but see, that's live coding is not how we code, right? Like it's not a reflective of how people do actual development, especially on like something like that. I would not want to work with somebody who would be like, I'm in a race, I'm going to ask no one else for help, I'm just going to try and bash my way through this as fast as I can, right? Like if you had a super important thing you had to do right now, for whatever reason, the first thing you do is stand up from wherever you're sitting and start finding somebody else who could help you with it. Like if it was truly an emergency, you
I
would
see
never
both
do that.
sides. I see both sides. I see. I think I could appreciate your thought process as you're doing it, and as long as I can like appreciate your thought process about what you're thinking as you're doing it. I know the spotlight is on you. I know you might be
Right.
sweating right now, right? But if I could just listen to the questions that you are asking based on the context of the question, that's going to give me a lot of information that I don't think I would get if I just tossed you an assignment and then you came back to me 48 hours later with a solution. Like,
Yeah.
now one could say, well, who cares about their thought process? Here's the solution. And I think that's fair to say. But if I'm going to be working close to you, like as far as I'm concerned, we're like comrades because I'm spending like most of my life with you in the office, right? Then I think there's a lot of value that could be taken from someone. I want to see how analytical you really are. Right? So, I mean, would I give myself that test? No, but I'll give it to you.
So when I interview people, the way I do it is I will pair with them on like we'll pick something from like what's the thing, the Project Euler programs, and we'll pair together on it. And it's one I haven't done
Oh
because I don't
wow.
want to put them in any situation that they're because I want to find out all the stuff you're talking about, right? The goal is not to see if they can solve the problem per se, like in a time minute, right? Like we're not sitting with the stopwatch going, okay, can you solve this in the next 2 hours, and will it be clean by some definition of clean? It's let's work on something together. Let me see if I can stand sitting next to you for the next half hour. What is your thought process? What questions do you ask? What do we try out?
Yeah.
How do we work? um, and that ends up being because most of the time we don't actually figure it out or finish it. And if we do, we're just going to grab another one. I've had that. Like, oh, you knew the answer to this because you just took, advanced level math and we did it in 3 minutes. Well, let's do another one because I didn't get anything out of that, right?
So you
And
come
part of
across
it is
people like that are like severely smart
I had
mathematical.
one. I had one a couple. When we have people in for interviews, they usually program with one or two other people, and I had one who was like, "Dude, he solved 3 of them." There was like they had to keep switching him up because he had a math background, so a lot of those were a lot simpler for him. Like my background is in CS, so I can get around math, but I'm not like a math expert major type of person who's like, what do you do on weekends? Calculus, it's fun.
All right, so this is a really important question. It may sound like a dumb question, but I have reason to believe that it happens. Okay, I won't say it happens to me, but do you think the first question is, did you guys hire that person?
The person I'm thinking of, oh yeah, we hired him. He's
Okay.
still on now.
The next question is, do you think companies, whether they make up the majority of mainstream or a significant fraction of mainstream, do you think the the grade of a team, or for lack of a better term, do you think the talent level of a team, what's the probability that they hire a high performer that is like really advanced compared to everybody on the team, the architect, the lead? Do you think those people still get picked up, or are those people not a cultural fit based on if they get hired, there's going to be political battles because it seems like they know a lot, but people still want to maintain influence. And my question isn't like majority, but do you think it happens more than we would like to admit? That
Oh, I think a lot of things happen more
people
than
purposely don't get hired because even though they come off as a high performer, it may not be aligned with the low performance or mid-level performance of a
moments.
company.
I think that there's something to that. They also don't necessarily apply at the kind of companies where people are at mid-level performance. I'm quoting somebody else, quoting something to me who told me about how one hiring theory goes at like A level
A players want to
performers.
work with A players.
Yeah, well, they want to work with A players, but they're going to hire B and C players because there aren't that many A players. So they're going to hire people that they think are close to them. So A players hire B players hire C players hire D players. And so part of it is like you kind of have to try to build a culture, right, of like helping the D's and C's and like give me somebody who's not. I'd rather have somebody
player based on the shops I've been at. Did I say that out loud? Oh, okay.
No. That was silent. But it also depends on how teams hire for. Companies, like the bigger the company, the more they tend to hire for like skills. Like there's a lot of companies that I can look at and be like, I know I'd be the best performer or best programmer you have day one. And I also know you wouldn't hire me because you'd be like, well, we want somebody with experience in very like specific sets of, skills. Like .NET shops tend to be like, we want these exact we want this much with Azure, this much with this .NET skill, this much with this one.
I call it the kitchen sink.
Yeah, but they also want it like in a specific way. So you'd be like, oh, well, for the last few years, I've mostly been writing Clojure. And they go, well, throw that guy out. Like, no, you don't understand.
My experience is everything that they have in the job description, it's not being used.
Oh, never.
They just use it to disqualify me for coming in, right? I'll put the race card sometimes. I know it's not true all the time, but I feel like this is Jim Crow tech. Really, I need to have all this in order for me to get in. And I know it probably applies to everybody, but it's like, why? Put the actual like skills that are really required. Like, why are you putting everything on here, and then you're not willing to pay for that one or two people?
Right, that person's making $1 million per
out of like 1,000 possible candidates in the state. Like, you're not going to pay them. You want to give them the same rate that you pay everybody else. So,
so many though. They're all hung up on the skills because that's easy. In particular, if an HR department has to get involved. So, like where I work, we have about 100 employees. So there's not non-technical people screening technical people getting hired yet. Once you get to the point where there has to be people that aren't technical screening people, they don't have the skills to like properly do it. So they have to sort of go, well, I'm going to what do you guys use? I'm going to make a checklist of technical skills. They don't really know what those things are because it's not their level of expertise, and it's not really fair they get put in that position. But when companies grow, that's sort of how that happens.
All right, Eric. So I want to ask you a question. You ready?
Uh-oh.
I think I put it in the description of this YouTube video. Where's my YouTube at? There you go. The title of this is Talking to Eric Smith about Software Craftsmanship and Reality. And I think we've been on that topic. So here's the question. What is it called? A-Flight?
Yeah.
Isn't Uncle Bob affiliated with that?
Yeah, he is, off and on.
Okay.
But yeah, he is.
So
it's not his company though. I gotta clarify that.
Oh, I thought it was his company. I thought he was like
a lot of people do. Actually, it was co-founded by our current CEO, Paul Pagel, and Micah Martin, Uncle Bob's son. Which is how I stumbled on him.
Got it.
Sorry, you had an actual question. I just
no. Thanks for making that clear. I didn't know.
Yeah, so people want to know if Bob's my boss. Like, no. I haven't seen him all that often.
First question is, so I'll probably have a couple questions, right? This is still a conversation, right? But I'm just interested in your opinion. One is, what is a software craftsman?
That is a really good question, to be honest.
Or what traits does a software craftsman have? Like, I want this to be your perspective and not like Webster Dictionary. Like, I'm not grading you. It's just, and this is going to lead up to something, I promise you.
So in my head, the best I can come up with is it's someone who gives a crap, which sounds condescending because it is a little bit, but it's more than just caring about like what you're doing day to day. It's someone who's like, so a craftsman is trying to get better at their job a lot. So here would be my example would be, right? Like, so I know you're an F sharp programmer, or at least
No,
trying to be.
yeah.
Well, okay, but like F sharp is a language that isn't common in the broader enterprise world. It's much more common than, a lot of others, right? But it's a little bit of a sign of somebody who's had to go at least a little bit out of the mainstream to look at that language, right? That's kind of, to me, a sign of craftsmanship, because it's somebody who's like, you know what, I'm reading books occasionally when I'm off work, or I'm practicing, or I'm building crap. I don't have a super great definition, because there's some people who get like, yeah, I know the Bob made a declaration at an Agile conference like a decade ago now, where he called it craftsmanship over crap. And there's a definite point there of like making sure to take care to do your job. And but at the same time, like, I feel like sometimes that definition gets a little exclusionary and a little bit insulting unintentionally. Like, when Bob gives a talk, he's trying to get people to pay attention, and sometimes that pisses people off. It doesn't mean you don't care, but do you care about your broader profession more than just what you're doing in the very narrow focus that a lot of times your company has, that your company's working for?
All right. So my next question is, why don't we see within a job title, software engineer? Like like we used to, like back
that
in the
used to be
late
my
90s.
title like almost 10 years ago. Might
Do
still be.
you think that's related? Like, and I make this argument, is is the term software craftsman really a software engineer? It's just mainstream developers just don't comply with industry recommendations of what has a higher probability of delivering successful projects. And so an engineer, they take measurements, etc. Mark Seaman
Right.
says, well, you can't take measurements. That's what he said when he was on here. But like, is the software craftsman essentially an alias of a software engineer based on the quality concerns and the I'll just leave it like that.
Yeah. So I don't think I think the problem is it's not that much of an engineering discipline,
I don't
right?
think so.
Like, I mean, I guess I'm not that good at defining what like an electrical engineering discipline is, to be fair.
When I'm in Visual Studio, what IDE do you work in? Are you one of those editor people? You do I don't know what those people do. I can't even name the editors that.
Oh no, I'm a Vim guy. So
Yeah,
most of the time I'm a Vim guy. If I'm using C#, I'll use Visual Studio.
Okay.
For my little bit of playing with F#, which is partly your fault, by the way.
Really?
I'll use
As in
Visual
the past
Studio
3
Code.
days? I reached out to you a week ago, or was it 2 weeks ago?
It was a week-ish ago, but I had heard you on .NET Rocks a couple of times. I think the first time you might have been talking about, was the first time you were talking about TDD and executives, and the second time was mobile development, something like that.
Yeah.
But you've been talking about, I think, mobile development and F#. I like about every 9 months I circle back to F# because there's things I like about the language, but I've never gotten good enough at it that I would like charge money to write code in it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to that point. Some people tell me I'm not at that point. They're like, I just bought a book on it today. I bought a book called where am I at? Come here. Where is this at? Where's my Kindle at? Hold up. I bought this book called.
Well, that's a phone.
Yeah. I bought this. Hold up. Can I put a shade on it? You can't see the. Hold up. That's not what I wanted to show you.
That's not the title. That looks like a chapter.
There's a book called
F# 4.0 Design Patterns.
I just bought that like 4 hours ago. Apparently, some really smart person that works at Jet.com, he wrote the book. I think that's what I thought I read. So I'm gonna butter him up, like, hey, I'm reading your book. Oh, by the way, I'm trying to get in at your company. I think you're awesome. Yeah. No,
Okay, tell him not to watch this video at the 30-minute point or
yeah.
whatever.
All right. I'm sorry. I completely derailed.
That's
We
okay. I
were
think we're like 2 derailments in. I don't even remember what we
Yeah,
were
we
talking
were
about
talking
anymore.
about. I'm sorry. I was asking this: if a software engineer is, or if is a software craftsman an alias for a software engineer? And then we started talking about, yeah. So this is the point. Like when I'm in Visual Studio, in which I mean I'm a .NET developer, like I think I'm engineering software, right? I'm pulling with the enterprise license of Visual Studio. I'm pulling up code map. I'm using static analysis. I am sending reports based on the static analysis measurements to QA, so that instead of it being black box testing, it's more of gray line. They see the maintainability index of various DLLs that whenever I'm building systems, they map to a related set of features. And like I'm always getting feedback. I'm always running code coverage. Like, that's not engineering software
Yeah, I don't know. I
when you
guess
have those tools?
I guess I don't have a good definition of what engineering is, would be part of it, but of course everything also doesn't have those tools. Like Java has different sets of tools,
Okay.
us editor guys have other sets of tools, but it's, sort of beyond that is that like you mentioned something about using standard practices, and the industry practices aren't all that standard yet. You
Well,
know,
that's
almost everybody
because it's
agrees you
not
should.
regulated. That's why anybody can be a developer, and I'm not knocking people without college degrees or people that came from boot camps, but like you have. Yeah, I'm going to be unpopular. I'm going to lose like half my Twitter followers. Um, you have so many people that, just like myself, that are getting into software development because this is a meal ticket to design a lifestyle, right? That's why I got into it, right? And but a lot of these people, they're perfectly content just getting in and stopping. They'll do whatever they have to do to get in, get just enough knowledge to get in, and then you don't really see any more hunger to improve, any more hunger to increase quality, reduce cost. Like you don't see that in mainstream. For the same reason, I was on LinkedIn today. I roasted some people on LinkedIn, right? There are some I roasted them. I am a
Can you do that
militant.
on LinkedIn?
Forget software craftsman. I'm a software militant, right? Like, because I'm still battling, and this is probably where you could put me in my place. Is I'm still battling like why are we having a conversation going into 2017 about is unit testing beneficial? Like, why the fuck are we having this conversation?
You want to know if your stuff works? God, that's crazy talk.
And I'll see a question posted on social media, and then my fangs start coming out, and like hair starts coming. Like I'm bald, but for some reason I turn into a werewolf, and like I start sprouting hair everywhere, and like, I can get on my keyboard, and I just start roasting people because I can't understand why they think that this is acceptable. That when you are getting paid by a client, it's acceptable to spend the majority of your time launching the entire system with all of its dependencies and then putting it into a state that takes time, and then going through the debugger, and then stepping through code, and then using a mouse to hover over different values to realize that the latest bit of code that you wrote that didn't do what you intended. You stop it, you write some more code, and you go through that whole feedback loop that takes several minutes. Like, I don't understand how that's accepted.
So this is what I mean though, right? But like we don't necessarily have standard industry disciplines, and it's not just like
Well, since we're
newbies
not
from boot camps
regulated.
that are doing it, right? Maybe it's because we don't have business. I don't know if we've actually settled them. So I
All
have
right.
this. Yeah,
Okay,
say
I'm
I have
listening.
this. Say I have this talk that I've been giving off and on for a little while, and it's got a long history behind it, which I could probably bore you with. But uh, I call it TDD is BS, right? Sometimes it's a case against TDD. It depends on the mood I'm in, and it's tongue firmly planted in cheek because I write unit tests for all my code. But what I'm talking about is a lot of the downsides to doing TDD. So, a good example is you work on a bigger system and you get thousands of tests running in CI. And 90% of the time when something's busted in CI, you spend time debugging CI and there's no bugs in the code. The code itself is fine. Production is A-okay. But you just spent hours and sometimes like a full day debugging some BS with the tests. And those kinds of things are always like, oh, well, that's because these two tests that were 1,000 tests apart flipped order. I worked on one system once where
Oh,
they
hold
had
up. They rely on each other? We're not talking about unit testing anymore. We're talking about
well, they're not supposed to, right? But people make mistakes, and that's where this used to happen at one client I worked on. They had an enormous suite of unit tests, and they had to break up their system, right? Like it was a design problem in their system. It was a Rails app that was gargantuan, needed to be broken up into chunks. They knew it, but that was going to take a long time. But in the meantime, they threw a big server farm at the build. Occasionally, a test that ran on it'd be split up on 10 servers. I don't know the exact number. I'm pulling on my butt. But occasionally someone would add a new unit test and a test would move from server A to server B, and it had been relying on running on the same machine as another test and in order and didn't know, and suddenly the build fails and you've done nothing but add a passing test. And there's all that kind of test maintenance. And it's truly there. It's a trade-off, right? It's a trade-off that I'm still willing to pay. But I've sort of changed.
Or test education. For one thing, if you're doing unit tests, right? I mean, one of the important rules for a valuable unit test or a unit test that has value is that it runs in complete isolation.
Right.
So a lot of people blame the process instead of blaming themselves for not developing a technique, not practicing outside of work to make sure that they make these mistakes outside of the ring so that they can perform inside of the ring based on that experience.
And I agree to a point, right? That does mean the test was bad. But even with practice, even people make that mistake. The joke I always make when I give this talk is, how many here are pissed off because daylight savings time just happened, or worse yet, since we're in different parts of the country, daylight savings happened twice, because in London it was in October, in the U.S. and it was in the U.S. it was in November, and did your build fail 2 different times when things happened?
Oh wow!
I used to work with a team in Michigan that was in Eastern time. About every 5-6 weeks, build's broken again, guys. No, it's not. It's great over here. You're like, yep, I'm in Central time. Oh, damn it, we did it again. And that's not a good reason to abandon unit testing. That's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? That's throwing the bathtub. You ripped up the bathroom and you just chucked the whole damn thing out because some stuff's a pain later. It's still a mistake to throw it all out, but that's part of the reasons. So I'm kind of taking part of the reason I put this in tongue in cheek is I think that there's stuff beyond unit testing we need to do more. I know you just had, like you said, Mark Seaman on. And he's doing a lot more property-based testing, which I'm actually trying to learn about.
I just did a video on it yesterday.
Oh, did you?
I'm a speaker on automationguild.com. I give this hour-and-a-half dissertation on property-based testing.
Because that is something that I actually am. I got a side project in a Clojure script brought on by being mad because my kid was trying to play Space Invaders and it was Flash-based stuff and it was taking 20 minutes to download or some crap. And I'm like, God damn it, I'm going to write a Space Invaders clone. I got this fixed because I'm a developer and an idiot, because it'll be no problem. And then you start thinking about all the little weird things in Space Invaders. They go faster when there's less of them because the original programmer didn't set a proper game clock that would account for the fact that the game could actually process faster when there were less things on the screen.
Oh wow!
So how do you
borderline talking above me? My understanding, I'm there somewhat, but yeah.
Well, if you think about it, right? You got, what is it? I should know this by heart now. There's 11 invaders in a row, and there's 5 rows, so you start with 55 invaders. Well, so picture a 1975 machine when there's only 40 invaders on the screen. The game can actually process all the invaders' movements faster. A proper game loop accounts for that. You save the time and say, okay, you basically have a tick that says, okay, it's been this long since the last one, so only move so much or don't move yet, that kind of thing. You have a velocity and a time. His didn't. It just said move. So as you shot more invaders, the Space Invaders went faster across the screen. Anyway, so trying to then manually programmatically match what was on there is like all this pain in the butt. But so while I was doing it, I have this function that all it does is goes through and it's like, okay, update the invaders, update. And I guess I should not assume, by the way, if you know what I'm talking about when I say Space Invaders.
It's some popular video game that I never played.
Okay, it's from way back when. But you update all the Space Invaders, update the bullet that's on the screen, update your guy, and then it's going to keep having little updates. And it's just this little function that's a few little lines. And my unit tests for it are getting huge because they got to make sure they account for, like, it's all immutable. It doesn't do anything bad because you pass a whole game state and you get a whole new game state back. But I have to, in my tests, know that I can't put it in a state where one part's going to affect it. And so I can fix this, right? Like, I can make that list of things to do go into an array. Mm-hmm. Like, I can make it data, and then there's just and all my unit tests have to do is handle the loop and make sure it passes things to the array. And I'm done, except now I'm not actually testing any of the stuff in the middle. My unit test proves my loop works, but I don't actually know if my list of steps actually works until I play the game.
So this is what my apologies.
No, go keep.
So this is what I've learned, right? And I made another discovery yesterday because I had to refresh myself on property-based testing for an upcoming question or Q&A for that test automation conference. One is, all right, so I'm not putting you on the spot, but I'm going to ask you this question, and you can just say, like, defer or whatever, and I'll tell you my understanding of it. Is I know you're interested in functional programming. You're interested in property-based testing. Do you know the intent, or what do you think the intent is of property-based testing based on your familiarity with it?
Yeah, so I've been doing functional programming for a while. I still don't consider myself great at it. Not very good at property-based testing, but my understanding of it is I should be able to set properties for the actual function itself. So that there's a decent example on, like, F# for fun and profit that you might have seen, where he talks about the multiple. Yeah, so he talks about I think, add addition and multiplication. And so he sets the properties that A plus B should be the same as B plus A. Which thereby meaning you can throw tons of data at the system and make sure you don't get anything invalid back. And so where my thought process was with property-based testing in my example was, well, I have a bug right now where so in Space Invaders, the laser goes up to the top of the screen and then it goes off. You're only allowed to fire one bullet at a time. Otherwise, it'd be too easy. In my game, it actually starts drawing in the upper left-hand corner. Okay. And part of this is because Clojure script, because I decided to do it in Clojure script because I thought all queries would be cool. And this is actually one of the reasons I wander over to F# periodically, because I'm like, I'm pretty sure I really just want static typing. Let me go get F#.
And property-based testing.
Yeah, and it has property-based testing.
I'm going to tell you why. These are the two things that I've learned, right? And I'm probably going to butcher this. I am so used to being corrected. It makes me better. It makes me more money. So, like, bring it on, right? So, the first one is this. All right. And this is coming from me based on my personal experience. This is the aha moment, right? Property-based testing is a tool for generating edge cases, in which I could translate it a different way. Property-based testing challenges your assumptions about a function, period. Okay, it challenges your assumptions about a function, the characteristics of that function. You say this function should only spit out a result within this range. That's your assumption, and you can modify the default of the amount of data that it's going to throw at it. And after 10,000 or 1 million, It might find an edge case that you never ever considered, right? So that's the first thing is it challenges your assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
The second one I discovered yesterday when I was doing the business rules kata. No. Yesterday when I was doing the vending machine kata
Okay.
is, and this is something that I found that I haven't read anywhere. I think it's really cool, right? Is property-based testing will identify functions that need to be qualified for being exposed to the outside world. So what does that really mean? I have learned that some functions could be deemed unsafe unless they are qualified within another function, and then it
Oh,
could be called. Else,
okay.
you could just arbitrarily call that function, pass in any data that you want, and you can have some issues, right? And so I learned that yesterday, where I could run some property-based tests on a function that is exposed to the outside world for any client to call, pass in any data. Oh shoot! It just my property test just failed. Oh crap! I didn't know about that combination. You know what? Yeah, that probably should be an inner function. Yeah. And so those are the two things that I think are really valuable. Um, that's it. So,
That's still more than I know at the moment. So I'm not going to start correcting you with the property based testing thing. I
darn,
just know
man, I want to be
that.
worth more.
um, because
So
I want to.
I see its potential.
And
My bad.
for yeah, for me it works as I'm looking at it as a way of like it's kind of a way of saying I want to do integration tests without having to write integration tests on my side project, right? Like if this was a real, if I was getting paid for my clone of Space Invaders, then like because I've been kicking this idea around at the office and be like, well, isn't this more of an integration test? I'm like, yeah, it is, but those are not like bang for the buck. I get the most out of good unit tests, right? Integration tests I get some bang for the buck, but not when I'm solo. And I got sick of, being in situations where like somebody who didn't write tests would be faster getting something done than me. Because I think that one of the little myths we sometimes say is like, oh, TDD, ultimately you're faster with tests. I'm like, you're faster most of the time until you get to that one test that keeps you all up all night, like, um, and I might know that, if I'm like I went back to school a few years ago and some people sometimes finish stuff and I'd look and go, well, their code is terrible. It's not tested. It's going to have bugs in it, but they're done faster than me at the moment. Like, and you know how that could be in a real business situation, right? Like, oh, they're going to look like they're done faster than you, especially because sometimes especially the bigger companies, they don't treat bug time like that means the thing you were doing wasn't finished yet. See, now I'm the one.
Yeah.
Now I'm the one complaining on I'm not sending this for my job interviews either.
but just to touch on what you just said, what oh,
And
I'm like the Samuel Jackson of the software industry. Like I'm that angry black man, right? You want to know what makes me angry? Is they're like, you know, uh, TDD or unit tests, right? They are different, right? Um, they work great for large scale projects, right? I see this everywhere on social media when people are debating when to write unit tests. And what 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 frustrates me or what my disagreement is I don't think there's such thing. I mean, like you could write a script, right? And I understand that's a program, but I don't think a script is software. I don't think. Maybe it could be. I don't think a script is software. When you have a small project that is software, if it's successful,
it's
users are going to want to extend it.
right. It's gonna become a large project, and
It's
then
going
you're
to
gonna wish you
grow.
had all those unit tests.
And like people don't see that. I've seen it for the past 13 years of my career. And it's like, why don't you see this? Well, like, really? Like, So, all right, I'm done venting. Thank you for being my shrink.
I'm a terrible shrink though. See,
Uh,
I think I've in the last couple of years, I've kind of like flipped my opinion on this. I think I used to be I was the angry white man of software development, but I could be, I could be Michael Douglas in Falling Down, where he's walking around and gonna just end up killing the city because he got stuck in traffic. Isn't that the movie?
that was in
Um,
the early '90s. I never
yeah,
saw that movie. I remember
I don't think I've
the
seen it. I
trailer
remember the
for it.
trailers. Yeah, I remember the previews.
Like
I don't think I ever saw it either.
he was just flipping out over like everyday nuisances. Like, come to
Right.
Miami, you'll see the WTF factor. The WTF factor for me in Miami is probably about 3 times every half an hour.
I
Like,
almost got to see Miami last year. I was
oh,
hoping to. I got to see the airport.
come and hang out with me. I need friends, man. I don't have friends down here.
My wife and I hiked the Inca Trail last year,
That's not in
and
Miami, my friend.
no, but the airport was on the way, and we were supposed to leave at like early morning and have like 8 hours to kill in the Miami airport. So we're like, well, we're not going to kill the whole day in the airport. Let's go like see parts of Miami. We'll go get dinner or something. Like, I don't know. I bet there's a Cuban restaurant. It's Miami. Like, we'll go someplace fun. And then our flight was delayed by 4 or 5 hours. So we got there at like 11 and had like 2.5 hours, 3 hours to kill in the Miami airport. Just long enough that's going to be real boring, but not long enough that you can actually leave the airport.
Yeah,
It's awful.
it's probably every like international airport, but especially the Miami airport. You said you're walking with your wife. You have to make sure you just, as you're walking, you just stare at the ground. Like, you already know what I'm talking about. Like,
Well, I mean, we were coming from O'Hare, so it's not much better yet.
yeah. I'm like, ah. All right. Oh, when you were talking about video games, I'm not sure if there's like a close knit community for that. But are you familiar with Sean Rakowski?
No,
Rakowski?
wait, maybe.
I'll
It would-
he actually does YouTube live in which and he was also like he had this podcast program called mylifeforthecode.com. And he was on here earlier today. When I say on here, like he had live streamed something called Ludum Dare 37.
Oh, it's Ludlum there this weekend. Or is it Ludlum? I can never pronounce.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I'm looking at his wall right now. His name is Sean Rakowski, R-A-K. Okay, first Sean is spelled S-H-A-W-N, and then his
that
last
name
name
sounds
is
familiar.
R-A-K-O-W.
Yeah, it's a
S-K-I.
48-hour game jam. I could never get to do those. Never have
So
the time.
he's been live streaming, and he's been. It looks like he's writing this game where it's a little spaceship that's shooting down little alien things. It reminds me of like Millipede or something.
Yeah, it's probably not writing it in ClojureScript. He'd have gone insane.
He's doing it in C#.
See, much smarter man than I was.
Yeah.
I shouldn't pick on ClojureScript. I kind of like it now. I didn't used to like it 2-3 years ago. So
Yeah, so hold up. You're getting into, or every once in a while you'll revisit F#, but you're fluent in Clojure.
the funny thing is, in many ways, I feel like I'm not fluent in anything anymore. Like I'm like C3PO. I can almost speak 1,000 languages. Like so. One of the things about like the software craftsmanship thing is we try to look at it as it's a collection of disciplines so that like if I go to a company, I'm going to write tests, I'm going to practice clean code, I'm going to do proper design or try my best to and I'm going to put in practices to do stuff where that's to make sure the code quality is better than it needs to be. And when I'm in one of my cockier moods, I'll be like, so I got an if statement, then I can probably write some code in it. And then when I'm in my crummier moods, I'm like, I'm not good at anything, am I? Because I'm what is it? Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. In a way, I kind of feel like that pressure is being placed on people applying for full-time positions. Like as a full-time employee, HR says you need the entire kitchen sink.
Yeah.
But here's a question, right? Are you a consultant or are you just working on a product? Like,
no, we're consultants. Yeah, I'm a consultant.
all right.
I still don't feel like one most of the time, but I am.
They don't treat you like one. Not your company, but other clients or other employees of
Well,
outside.
actually, no, I don't think that I'm necessarily treated. Just consulted sounds like a really fancy thing. Like I should be wearing a suit and tie when I sleep or something, and
Okay,
then I
you're a
come in with my
contractor.
on
How
and
about
say,
that?
but
So here's the
um,
question, right? Because you said you mentioned something related to software craftsmen where you you basically use the highly recommended software practices to raise the probability of a successful project. I don't know how to say that in a better way, but
no, that's
um,
actually I'd say pretty good.
the
I like
question
raise the
is
probability.
the my question is you can do that on your home projects, and you can do that for maybe Eighth Light, right? Because
Mhm.
they let the whole world know that they have standards that standards that are they hold themselves to a higher standard than
Right.
mainstream. You won't hear me say mainstream a lot. But my question to you is, and this is something that I struggle with, can you really apply software craftsman traits or qualities, that's a better word, to any shop that you walk in that may not hold themselves to the same standard that you would expect?
So I probably can now, but I couldn't necessarily a few years ago, right? I
Okay.
mean, when I come in working for Eighth Light, right? Like, yeah, and I've told people before, like, so like I have a small collection of Eighth Light shirts, like any consultant would, and I usually wear them when I go on a client site. Um, and that, I do it for a few reasons, right? One, it's like, well, it's a nice collared shirt, so it's always going to look professional when I'm in an office setting. But also, like, I kind of want to remind myself and the other people that I don't work for them. I work for Eighth Light, and I will do my best for them. But it's as part of Eighth Light, which means if they attempt to try and tell me, no, there's no time for writing these tests, I can say, I don't work for you. I'm going to do what is the right thing to do for this project. And,
I
if you
haven't been
can,
successful with that.
but that's harder with your solo, right? Like if I try that approach, like if a company does that, they know they don't gotta just fire me. They gotta fire all of Eighth Light because the next guy who comes in is gonna say the exact or girl. I gotta work on my gender neutral pronouns. I'm terrible about that. But
I'm bad
next
too.
person who comes in um, is gonna do the exact same thing. And so, I've been with Eighth Light. It'll be 10 years in February. So, I have some degree of leadership. So I feel like I should be able to do that so that other people that, joined the company last year feel that they can do the exact same thing. It doesn't happen that often because by the time we've been hired, they already know, like you said, who we are. We set that out there. Um, Now, the thing about it is like over the last 5 years at Eighth Light, I've gotten more and more into training side, which means if I'm coming in like the job I'm on right now, I've done some coding, but it's not a coding gig, it's a training gig. So I'm teaching them all about, I mean, we're like bare bones kind of agile processes where it's like, you guys should deliver something every month. You should write some tests, get a CI build, just really, early level stuff. And when I'm doing that, no one's going to tell me to be like, no, we don't write. They might fight me on whether they're going to actually write the test, but nobody's going to tell me I can't tell them to do that because they've hired me to tell them to do that.
Yeah.
Um, and then the training stuff, that part is like easy. And then I get asked a lot of questions. Well, what do you do when the boss tells you not to do it? And it's kind of a hard
Why,
question because a lot of
why,
times the
why are you
boss is,
asking the Why are you asking the boss permission to write a test?
which
Well,
is usually what I say. I mean, it's
I
like,
had
go
an
ahead.
interview. I had an interview like a couple of days ago, and I talked about this in my last recording with somebody. Oh, with Odie. Odie is a really bright dude. He's in Nigeria, man. Anyway, so I had this conversation with him, and I was like, no, what, how would you respond to a tribunal that's interviewing you when they say, hey, in this case, they're like, Scott, we know that you're all about test automation, TDD, unit tests. We get it. Okay, you keep telling us that. We get it. But how do you get buy-in from management, and like buy-in. And I was like, I don't ask permission to do professional work. This is something that is required. I need this to participate in my feedback loop so that I know that I'm still on target. I don't ask managers permission to prove that my code works. They expect me to prove that my code works. And I told them that, and I know I probably got disqualified for that response, but it's like, so how do you
But see, now if
have
you
you
did get
struggled with people
disqualified,
that have that permission thing where they
oh,
believe they
yeah,
need
all
to
the
ask
time.
permission for everything?
Yeah, what I usually say actually in the classroom is, well, do you ask permission to write semicolons? They look at me strange. I'm like, it should just make it part of your job.
Do
And
you
this is
ask
actually
permission to build your solution, to compile
right.
it?
Do you ask permission for indentation, or do you just be like, look, am I wasting white space? How much does that cost on the hard drive? Right? Like you don't. You do what you think is best to deliver the software. And this comes up a lot, not as much with testing, because usually they know they can if they're bought in, they can usually know they can convince their boss. Like their boss won't be the one to tell them don't test your shit, because then they know they're on the hook for it. But it's usually when it's refactoring. They'll ask me like, should we put this as a task on the board? Should we make sure to make stories for it? Should we ask when we can do it? It's like, no, you should turn in the thing that you think is best. Don't tell them you're finished. And part of that is on you as a developer, because developers too frequently will come to like their stand up and be like, yeah, I finished that feature. I just got to do some refactoring. Well, newsflash, you just told the boss you're finished. Like,
Yeah.
why did you finish before doing all that refactoring? That's the whole part of the feedback loop. You should refactor at each step. If you think you're done, it should be good enough to get done.
I like this one. It's okay. You have permission to disagree with me as much as you want. Right now, I think I'm vibing with you, but I know I say a lot of things that are inaccurate. So come on, you got to make me better. All right? I love this one. Um, I finished with my story. Now I just have to write tests.
Oh yeah, like how do you even know it works?
And of course, they can't write tests.
No, because it's
At,
a pain in the butt now.
at the sprint review, we look at the done criteria, and we're like, all right, where are your tests at? And they're like, yeah, unit tests didn't really apply for this. And I'm like, Scott, they told you last time to chill out during the review, so just put your head down. Because I want to roast them. All right, but I don't know. Apparently, it's whatever.
So, yeah, I think part of the reason I've changed my approach a little with this is because I kind of want to understand some of the like I'm not interested that much in people who are like, no, you can't ever do it. It just doesn't work for me. Or there's always like I'll see teams and be like, we can't do it here, man. We got this big database. I'm like, you don't think everybody has a big database? What do you think other people are storing in their database? We got 3 users. That's it. Of course you have, or we have a lot of UI. Those I know how to do in TDD, and actually I know how to do them pretty well in TDD. Like those, the things that people struggle with are actually things I think TDD does well. Like I think it's really good at UIs. Like there's nothing I like better than having all my tests pass, and I don't even have to look at the front end for a little while. Right? That's great.
This is about like we tried TDD and it doesn't work for us. Hold on. You mean to tell me you guys are that special?
Right? You guys are that unique, you snowflakes. And there's a lot of like
tried. It doesn't work. And then my things will come out and this is something I have to work on. I'm like, no. You tried and you couldn't get it to work because this is your first time trying it on your client's time, on your client's budget. You haven't developed a mental model of how to do this effectively. You haven't refined your technique, and it's not TDD, it's not unit testing, it's you, because you haven't put in the work, the effort outside of the client's time or budget. And that's what I want to say. So, all right, I think I beat this to death. Oh shoot, where did you go? Hello? Yo, where did you go? Yo, Eric just left. Hopefully he'll call me back. All right, while he's gone, yo, where did he just go? All right, whatever. While he's gone, Gabriel, is it Gabriel or Gabrielle? I want to say Gabriel. Gabriel, a boy. You said all your questions are off topic. Well, he's gone now. And so, what's your question? If you're still online, and maybe I have to send Eric another invite. But he already has. Nah, I think he's smart. He's smart enough where he could just look at his past email, just click on the link again. Hopefully that'll work. And he's back. Yo, I can't hear anything. Can you check your headset?
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Back in. Although you had a really good like 80s cop movie Frozen face from like in the mid laugh.
Oh, okay.
Like the end of a Miami Vice episode. We got the drug dealers.
No, I was like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, where did he go?
I don't know. Something froze up. No, to say, but I wrote about it on I wrote about it on my personal blog, just peytonreels.com. There, look at that. I naturally worked that into conversation. Where it's like read Kent Beck's book, do yourself a simple kata. Like Bowling Game's a pretty good one. Prime Factor's a pretty good one. Something simple that you can do over and over again to start like getting it into your fingers. And then go read Growing Object-Oriented Software Guided by Tests, which is great because they do two different styles of TDD, but it's also like a much harder book to get through. And then give yourself a different kata, which the second one I usually like is there's a string calculator kata.
Yeah, I'll try that.
And what I like about that one, what I like about that one is it's got several levels. Well, it works for a couple things. One, it's got several levels, so you can expand on it a few times. Like once you get to a certain proficiency, you're like, okay, I can do this. But it's also great for like, say for instance, you're sort of learning F sharp. You want to get to know it. So you're like, okay, well, what should I should be able to do string manipulation in any language. If someone's going to pay me, I should be able to do string manipulation without thinking about it. Right. So that's what like, okay, the first time you do it, you'll futz it up and you'll do like really basic string stuff. You're like, well, there's a number. I can calculate math and maybe slice it up. And eventually like, you're like, okay, it's 2 lines in a fold or something, you know, I have not done this kata in F sharp. So
you're talking about some functional programming now. All right.
Well, to reduce enclosure. So, but you know, you get yourself to a certain level of proficiency and then start trying it on your code at work. But the hard part is like, I mean, and this is what I did, right? Like I read a book. Actually, I read the XP Explained book and I tried to do it on work like 12 years ago. I was terrible at it. But it was better than everyone else at work because they didn't do it at all.
Mm-hmm. Now,
and that's where it gets to like now it like there's still some trade-offs that some speed issues that can come up, but like that's where like gets 90% of the we don't have time to write tests out of it because it's like you don't have time to debug production issues too, but somehow you find time because you're doing it all day long.
You know what Odie said? I was talking to him yesterday. He said something that he said a couple of things that were like really like, whoa. So the argument about writing unit tests or not writing unit tests is all right, y'all. I'm pretty sure that, and this is what Odie was saying. He was like, I'm pretty sure that Microsoft and Google, they will not accept your pull request if you do not have backing tests. Okay? If you want to check in your code, if you want to contribute your code, if you want to add some feature for them to pull in, it's not enough to say that it works. Look at this class model. No, like you have to have supporting tests. And it has to play nice with the existing system. Guess what? By them executing the entire suite of tests, right? And so I think
that's pretty good one.
Yeah, I mean, he said a lot more. He articulated a lot better than I did. But yeah, and I was like, that was a good way to like, I don't know, respond to people that believe that they're a snowflake. or believe that they're hot stuff. So
Yeah, well, using big companies like that is always a good, like, that's one that'll come, kind of things that comes up a lot. It's like, like I can't. This is the trouble being a client. Like I can't say client names, but I'm like going. I've worked on a client where we had 120 million users in the database. Is your database really bigger than that? And somehow we wrote unit tests. Like I bet it's not.
yeah.
But people are used to working a certain way, and it's amazing how many people. I mean, where I'll talk with them, they'd be like, "So where do you put these tests?" Like they don't even know. Like they haven't even heard of the idea.
Yeah, but they'll be the first to tell everybody else how to do something. They'll
Yeah,
be the first to,
well, there's
they'll
a
be the
little.
first to assert themselves as the alpha in the shop, right?
Oh,
And they're really lifers, right? Because they don't. All right, this is me venting. Um, they're lifers, right? They have no clue about what practices industry is experimenting with, or that industry has said, hey, this seems to have some benefits. No, they are completely disconnected from industry. They are only connected to their company and how they've been doing things.
their section of it too. People get
Yeah,
very.
yeah, yeah.
But I look at too is like everybody's kind of got their own bubbles, right? Like, so I'll like give a lot of talks at the 8th Light offices and be like, our clients tend to write unit tests. You guys all write unit tests. But I get to go to some of our harder clients. They don't even know what it is. Like, and it's not that uncommon, right? Like
It's 2017 almost. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, I don't
literally
deny that
just
it sounds
going to
silly.
work? Like, it's 2017. Like, this didn't this isn't like a JavaScript framework that appeared like 2 weeks ago that you have to learn. Like, this has been around. Like, where have you been? But I can't ask those questions.
I think this is the difference between the experienced programmers and not, is that newer programmers are all excited about self-driving cars, and experienced programmers go, "Oh my God, we're all gonna die." Have you like?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I have some that will argue. I had one of my coworkers was like, "Do you realize how bad the average driver is?" I'm like, "Do you realize how bad the average programmer is?" And that'll be in every
and the thing is,
car.
they don't. They don't. They don't. Would you? Here's a question, and then I think I beat this to death. And if you still have time, we can talk about something else. Else, if you have other obligations, I'm okay with that, right? Eric, would you get on the next Boeing airliner in which there's public information that the 10 million lines of code that airliner relies on has 80% code coverage?
Oh yeah, because that sucker will never take off. We'll be stuck at the tarmac all day. We're not going anywhere. There's no way it's gonna crash because it's not getting off the runway.
Well, hold on. It works. It just they only tested 80% of the actual code. Like,
well, the scary
80% of the business rules implementation has been proven. Would you go up 20,000 feet cruising altitude on an 80% tested code base? So
the scary thing is we probably already do that. I mean, to be perfectly honest, that probably already happens. I wouldn't be that surprised. Now that you just made me afraid to fly, thanks.
Well, I mean, so what's I'm horrible in math, but what's 20% of 10 million?
A lot. Well, 10%. Wait, is it 2 million? That might be 2 million.
10.
Yeah. 10 too. Yes.
So would you feel comfortable riding on an airplane with 2 million lines of code not being proven?
I sure wouldn't. Except, like I said, I don't think it'd take off.
I would think the FAA would have really tight standards.
I hope so, but I mean, it's software. We're really bad at measuring that stuff. And the thing is, like, so, like, we're, kind of having fun picking on people who don't do TDD, but there's a lot of smart people who also think, like, TDD is kind of dumb, and they write some tests after. Well, like Rich Hickey, the developer of Closures, some of them. Like Rich Hickey has publicly made fun of TDD. Linus Torvalds, I think, thinks it's pretty stupid, and we're all using Linux or some you're a .NET developer, you're not. Like, it's out there a lot. And so I'm kind of trying to find the gap of like like there's these people that like their skill level's just not there to write unit test, or they've never written unit tests, and their skill level tends to be, like you said, lifers, right? They're really good at the problem domain of their company, and they can't ever leave the company because they don't know much about outside of that particular bubble. And then you bring them TDD, and they're like, yeah, but who does this on a big system? And you're like, Google.
And DHH too. Like I've watched some YouTube videos in which he bashes TDD, and he'll have an audience that's like standing up applauding him, and I'm like,
well,
the
and
biggest
his
thing is they blame TDD, they don't blame themselves, and 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 something else is okay. So how do you prove your code works? Always ask that question. Oh, you're not going to do that? Well, how do you prove your code works, right? I promise they're going to avoid that question. And if the only way that the only way that I'm aware of, not saying that I'm all knowing, but the only way that I'm aware of that you can prove that your code works without having unit tests is if you are able to take advantage of the compiler such that the compiler will enforce that illegal states are unrepresentable.
that can certainly help with some sections. I still think you need unit tests, but I'm like, even though I'm writing my Space Invaders in Clojure script, and there's a lot I enjoy about Clojure, at this point I'm sort of like, if I don't have to write without typing, from now on I just want typed languages. Like too many, like Clojure is pretty egregious at this, where they're like, everything's a hash, which means if you try to get something that's not there, it's just null. And so they've developed this whole thing called Clojure spec, where you have to specify what keys are required, which sounds suspiciously like a structure. Like you've made a long-winded version of data structures, and I know that there's reasons around it because of like you want to have a programming language that's list based, so it's hard to write a typing system that looks decent. But to my mind, it's like, I can't remember who said it to me. It's like, it's free tests. Why am I throwing away free tests?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very similar to the I can do this thing faster without TDD logic, right? Like I can, if it's 50 lines, I can do things faster. I can write my Ruby code faster than I can write code in Java. Not that I particularly enjoy Java, but I like that I got types that will enforce that the interface I'm conforming to actually exists, like and fits, and it will tell me when I screw that up. I used to be of the mindset, well, my unit tests will catch those, but one, my unit tests don't always because I forget to write that test. But even if they do, what if the compiler could just already have written that test for me?
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the reason I wander over to F# every once in a while, because I like seeing things like lightweight types as opposed to hashes, and I like some of the other cool stuff it's gotten it.
Once I can confidently say I'm intermediate at F#, I'm going to start looking into F*.
I only just heard of that this morning, so
Okay.
I literally like saw something on the F# Reddit that was like, "Have you heard of F*?"
Yeah. I talked about it a little bit on Functional Geekery. Are you familiar with Functional Geekery podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if I heard you on that one.
Probably not. Don't listen to it. Don't listen to it.
No,
I did not belong on there at all.
No, I've heard that show a lot. That's actually my mowing the lawn podcast.
There you go.
Which means I miss a lot of it because I can't hear it over the lawnmower. But that's what I usually listen to while mowing the lawn. And that's is it Steve Proctor's show?
Yeah.
Yeah. I met him a long time ago at one of the first Software Craftsmanship conferences. But
all right, so I'm about to kill this topic, and probably if you have another 10-15 minutes, address a question that someone asked. This is completely off topic, but I think I beat this to death. Yeah, I didn't know either, right? If you go to your YouTube and you click on the link that we're doing right now on the YouTube site.
Oh, I'm opening a new browser tab. I'm probably gonna break everything.
No, like just launch YouTube on a different tab or a different, I don't know, whatever window, and click on the link. Click talking to Eric Smith about software craftsmanship and reality. And on the right hand side of the page, you'll see a comment thread.
I think
And
my
so,
I think my browser is still being grumpy and only wants to
uh,
talk to you, which is fine
all right,
enough.
yeah, that's fine.
Um,
So there's I don't know if it's Gabriel or Gabriel, um, but there's a question that I really wish, whatever. There's a question that the person asked, saying, should I apply for jobs without a complete resume, but can do extremely well in the interview? I have my response to it, but you've hired people before. You probably reviewed resumes before.
so full disclosure though, I almost never look at them anymore. With the way it works. So the way it works at Eighth Light, is we have like a applicant page, and it's becoming a little bit more of a black box. And they go through some of the basics of reviewing. They go through some of the basics of like early screening. So they have to submit something that's kind of it's kind of like a resume, but it's more like a story about themselves. Um, and then they have to go through the coding exercise I mentioned at the beginning of this.
Okay.
Uh, Sorry, it wasn't done personally for you. But we try to keep that really light and informal. And by that point, then they like might get forwarded. Hey, do you want to mentor this person? Because we do everything via apprenticeship. Um, and I almost never look at their resume unless it happens to be online. Um, and if it's online, I might see it. Like the last person that's currently my apprentice, her resume I read online, um, and went, "Oh my God, she's applying for a job," because her resume is extremely impressive. But I would actually probably answer the question. Someone's gonna make you give them one anyway. Like, I hate the stupid things. I think everyone involved thinks they're dumb and pointless, but someone is gonna tell you, okay, can I have your resume? And you're gonna go, oh God.
It's
There's
not
a
like
book
business
though.
cards. People ask me for business cards, and I feel like
Your mic.
my popular answer or response, we're almost in 2017. Why do you want this piece of paper when look me up on Google?
Don't look me up on Google. Just trust me. The first match for me on Google is not me.
Uh
I swear.
oh.
Let's just say we can all hope he never gets paroled. But
I mean, Eric Smith seems like a really common name.
it is, and I'm not that guy. I also never played safety for the Jets.
Okay.
I'm currently 170 pounds, and it's all skinny fat. I'll have you know. Um, so, um, they always ask for a resume. Eventually, they always ask for business cards. I can't remember if I turned in a resume to Eighth Light. There is a book. Oh, was it called Damn Good Resume Book? I think that's the book. Because I ended up, even like sometimes when we get consulting gigs, they want a resume. So I ended up writing one. I just ended up making it seem like a fun experience, though. Like, I'm going to write the cool stuff I did. They're kind of good when you're feeling down about yourself because, like, I'll write a resume and be like, hey, I'm actually kind of awesome. Yeah, that's a ticket.
In a way, like when I write my resume, I get really sad and depressed, and then I give it to a recruiter, and the recruiter return it back to me. Like, God damn, I'm a rock star. Yo, I did this. Are you
Wow.
serious?
Holy crap.
Oh.
You'd think I'd remember it if I built that company.
Yeah, like they can make you look good. And all of a sudden I got high self esteem again. Um, yeah, so like as far as I'm concerned, I mean I'm not a recruiter and I'm not an employer. I think I think resumes have value, but I think it's really an introduction. It's kind of like a business card, which I don't have. I was supposed to make some today. Um, but what if I were an employer, I would want to see what you've done. And no, I don't mean that you have to have artistic ability if for a programming job, which I think unfortunately this industry still grades people on the user interface as their skill set of a programmer and not what's behind it, which I think is unfortunate. But I would want to see, yo, let what have you worked on? And I mean, I don't ask for much. Like, have you builds a small app, if you're applying to be a developer in which there's a focus on the UI, I'm not asking for a pretty UI, but I want to know that you're aware of the different pieces of the framework and you've exercised it before. I would see value in that. I would also see value in if you maintain a technical blog. I'm not saying it's required, but I think you would get a lot of points because that means I know you're serious. I know that you have hunger. I know you're motivated. And I think there's a fraction of people that actually demonstrate motivation or hunger to want to learn. A lot of people are just content.
Yeah.
So,
So
but
I
I'm
would.
not
Oh. Oh.
one that's in a position to hire.
Yeah, I mean, I do admit I look at people's GitHub, but I don't look closely. Like, and that's, I mean, again, I mean, like most of the people we hire, it's what's called an apprenticeship. They spend months, anywhere from 3 months to a year, just learning, depending on where their skill level is. So, like, I'm not looking for like quality work. God knows, you can go to my GitHub right now and be like, "Wow, this is terrible. This is crap. He hasn't updated this in a year." And I mean, I probably have 100 repos because anytime I have a half-formed thought, up it goes to GitHub. But I do like to see like interest, something up there of like a few things, like, oh, look, this person's experimenting with a few things, they've done a to-do list it doesn't, I'm not going to clone it and test it out and be like, you only have 92% code coverage, you suck.
That's what I would do. And then the next thing that the person asked,
we have two questions. Oh my god, I'm a rock star.
Said, oh crap, I lost my spot. Where am I at? They said I do really well on Code Wars, which I'm not familiar with, which are katas. How much weight does that provide?
I mean, personally, I wouldn't care per se. Like, I've never been to Code Wars, but I'm a pretty good developer, right? Like, but it probably means that, I mean, for our process, like, I know I could speak for Eighth Lights, like, and I know ours is non-traditional. We are looking to find people with skills. So if you're doing well on Code Wars, there's a good chance, like, our, screening, you might be able to get something out of. And we actually work really hard, I will say. I will give ourselves credit, and I have not. Okay, so I haven't done the latest and greatest. So if I say whatever it is, I'm going to be wrong. But the basic gist, since it's all about giving feedback and seeing how you change things, we try really hard to make it a dialogue. Hopefully, I haven't said too much already. Like, I don't want to accidentally give away the store. Somewhere are the guys in charge of our interviewing are like, "God damn it, Eric, you did it again." But
you know what?
We really like to see a capability of feedback.
Gabriel, would you like to just join or hang out? I have like another 10 minutes and then I'm going to check out. Respond like within the next 30 seconds if you want to join in. If you do, then you need to provide me your email address or your Gmail.
This would be awesome if live radio shows worked this way. It would be awful. It would be terrible. Oh my god. Oh no, this would be terrible.
I mean, I'm looking at the Code Wars
website. To the Stern Show.
Do I listen to Howard Stern?
No, I don't. I'm just trying to picture like what the average caller would be like if they could just join into the show after calling. Does he even have callers? I don't know.
I was watching Howard Stern like on the late night, like in the late 90s. Like he still has a show. He had got a fat paycheck from some satellite radio company.
Yeah, he was on Sirius or something.
Sirius, yeah,
something like that. Sirius. Well, they're the same company now. Sirius and XMR.
$2 a share.
I don't know. I did not know enough about stocks like I maybe should.
Hey, okay. He is going to get on. Let me send him an invitation. Hey, you didn't think I was that dynamic, did you? Yeah, I'm bringing on the
Oof, media superstars.
That probably didn't.
We're big stars now. We get to meet our audience in person, one by one.
And you know what? This is the first time Eric and I have ever spoke. We're talking like we're like we know each other, like we're homies.
We do now.
We're homies now.
I can't remember the last time I managed to get an hour and a half conversation with my wife without being interrupted 12 times by my children. So, you know.
Yeah, I put my dog in the back in my bedroom, but she likes to hate on me when I talk to people. So I just sent Gabriel an invitation, and I'm going to try to do a hard stop at 7:45. You can leave whenever. You're not obligated to stay here.
What's
I don't
bothering
want
us?
I don't want people to feel like they're obligated to keep talking to me because I'll talk your head off, right?
I'm just kind of shocked that my youngest hasn't come in and then attempted to talk to you because he still has not figured out. He's 6 years old, but he still does not understand the whole headset thing. So he'll walk in and be like, "Hi," and then usually the other person can hear him, so they'll say hi, but he's like, "How come I can't hear them?" Like, headphones. It's only in here.
Well, my dog thinks I'm crazy because my dog thinks I'm talking to myself. Right? The dog doesn't know what this is,
All
and
dogs.
doesn't know what this is. So I'm like, yeah. So when you coming through, yeah, yo, I'm gonna get some candles, yo. And my dog's just looking at me like, Gabriel,
Yo, what's up?
oh, you ain't think I was gonna bring you on here, did you?
Put you on the
Nah,
spot.
No, I didn't recognize you at first. I'm like, is it Gabriel or Gabrielle?
it's Gabriel. Gabriel.
All right, Gabriel.
You guys
So
see
I,
me?
no,
Oh
but
well.
it's okay. We for the next 10 minutes, we could you could talk to us or you can ask us questions, however you want to use me, or if Eric still wants to stay.
All right.
I was
So
gonna ask
going
Scott
back.
teaches F sharp.
Okay. All right. So going back to the first question, like, should I apply for a job without a complete resume? I kind of like, so to give you some feedback on like who I am, give you some info. So I have a partial CS degree. I'm doing like, oh wait, I can't hear you guys. Are you guys saying anything?
I'm here.
No, we're
Oh,
listening
okay.
to
All
you
right.
talk.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Right now I'm at a coding developing bootcamp trying to switch into like web development. So I have a portfolio. Code Wars is just like a bunch of kata to do like basic JavaScript algorithms. Um, so I'm pretty much almost done with the program. I only have like SQL to learn, and then I would have like full stack knowledge, and then I start developing projects. I'm going home for Christmas, and I want to start applying for jobs right now. And there's like I've been looking and doing my research, and I'm trying to see. And my question was like, should I apply to see if I can get an interview and like disclose I'm still a student? I'm gonna have a portfolio in like a month. If I can show you that, why don't you give me a trial with just an interview to start? What's your impression on that?
Well,
I
to
want to
mine,
go
I would
first.
just. So, what were you gonna say, Scott?
I said I want to go first, but
Okay,
but
go
I'm
for
not
it.
I'm not an employer, and so what I'm going to say is probably completely wrong. But if I were in a position to hire somebody, this is what I would appreciate. All right. So one, okay, yeah. I'm gonna try to hook you up. All right, Gabriel, you listening?
I'm right here. Yeah,
All right. One is subscribe to simpleprogrammer.com.
already subscribed.
Purchase
I'm like,
purchase the workshop for building a blog. I understand that it
okay.
costs money, but seriously, you're investing in yourself. You can't trip over like I don't even know how much they're charging because I didn't do it myself. But if it's $300, you're gonna trip over $300 if you could be making 150,000 a year. Really? Now you're not gonna start off at 150,000 a year, but I hope you start off at like at if you don't have a CS degree, well you said partial, but like if you're coming out of a boot camp, again I'm speaking out of ignorance, but I would expect you to at least be starting off at 50,000. You probably invested like 10,000 in that boot camp. But one is I would subscribe to simpleprogrammer.com. he has hella content, hella of information. Two is I would listen to well, it's kind of hard to listen about. This is what I do, Gabriel, and this has separated me from a lot of my competition, even though I stay unemployed and they stay working. But I'm bougie, right? Because I want to pick who I want to work for. Is I play you I listen to YouTube in the morning. I'll fall asleep to YouTube, right? In which I'm always listening to things that are tech related. I listen to YouTube videos about Clojure, YouTube videos on Scala, YouTube videos on object-oriented programming, YouTube videos on JavaScript. Like, honestly, I don't discriminate. I listen to all of that, and I'll keep listening to it. There's so much content out there that you really of the system. Now, this is the other part that I would do if I were in your position, and I'm doing it right now. Is and Eric, I'm curious what he's going to think about what I'm going to say. All right, so this is what I'm about to say. Forget, I won't say forget, but shelve JavaScript, shelve C#, okay? Shelve Ruby. Put all that on the shelf. All right. What I think is going to work for you, if I were in your position, yo, you got to hack the system, man. You can't follow what monkeys do. Monkey see, monkey do. Nah, let them do what they do. They're the herd, right? If I were in your position, I would either start figuring out what Elixir is, what Scala is, what Clojure is, or what F# is. Now, why am I saying this? Because I sincerely believe that one is the Scala, and the F#. These are functional first languages, so my understanding is they're fully object oriented, and they strongly encourage F#. They strongly encourage functional, right? And so now you're able to build up, right? Especially if you start blogging and you start doing all these katas and you start recording all this, you can put yourself ahead of me. I have 1 year head start on you, right? 5 years from now, I can have 5 years experience of functional programming, and you can have 4, regardless of all my experience of building systems that are object oriented, right? Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
You have an amazing opportunity to start picking up on what I believe are next generation languages that are going to be mainstream maybe 5 years from now. That's what I think. And I'll just leave it right there and listen to hella podcasts. .NET Rocks. I'm not an Elixir programmer, but I listen to Elixir Fountain, right? And so that's my response.
Okay, just like familiarize myself with a ton of languages, whether I am like actively writing on them or not. Just like know everything.
Just be aware of it. No, don't. You don't have to be an expert at everything. Just be aware.
Yeah.
Most people are ignorant, right? Just be aware of it, and then when there's a problem that comes up, you're aware of it. Then you could drill deeper into it if you would like to figure out if it's practical. But just have a basic understanding of a professional developer. What tools are out there in order for you to deliver a solution for whatever problem that someone comes with you at.
Okay. So, yeah, I like what you said. Like YouTube and all the resources on there, like and Simple Programmer. A lot of the students here aren't really familiar with a lot of the things. Like all the programming YouTubers that like publish like free information and their opinions and like them teaching you like functional programming or how to use this exactly. I'm really open to that. I have like 1 million subscriptions to all that, and like going to sleep to YouTube. That's what I do. I don't listen to podcasts, but YouTube is like basically my podcast.
Honestly, let me retract something. I think JavaScript is also functional. I don't know anything about JavaScript, but my understanding is it's functional too. So I take that back about JavaScript.
It's optional. For all values of Chanel or orientation, it is. Hey, Gabriel, the thing I'd say to you right now would be is like when you get home, don't go looking the want ads for stuff for people that are hiring because your skill set's not going to match anybody's anyway. And so you're just going to look and go, oh, I can't get any job. and skill sets, like we were talking before, skill sets put in want ads are usually BS. There's stuff that's meant to filter people out because companies always have more applicants than they know what to do with. What you want to do is identify companies you would want to work at, which is probably going to be smaller companies, and see what you need to do to get in the door there. So find out who you might know there or who is a friend of a friend. Email everybody you've ever known and like tell them you're looking and see who knows where at those companies. And the other thing I would say is like when you're talking to people, whether or not you have a resume or not, focus on what you've done. So like don't talk about Code Wars as like it's this lame thing, sort of like you almost describe it like apologetically. Be like, no, I've written all these katas. I am going to boot camp right now. I've written JavaScript. I've written this language. Make it, don't start apologizing for what you haven't done because the field's so huge. The amount of stuff you haven't done will always dwarf the amount of stuff you have done. So I wrote my first computer programmers when I was about 7 years old. Okay. And I'm going to be 40 next year. And there's an enormous amount of stuff I do not know. And there always will be. So this is why, like, on the one hand, I'm happy to be a software generalist, but I know that if I'm ever in an interview, like if I'm ever interviewing for a software engineering job and it's in .NET, then they start quizzing me on esoteric .NET stuff, I'm going to be like, look, that's not where my expertise is, but I can tell you how to build an object-oriented system. I can tell you how to write tests for it. I can teach you how to get a CI set up for it. And that other stuff you're doing, give me a book and I'll be proficient in it in a week or two. And most of that stuff isn't, it's not as hard as we think it is. When you're in your early days, syntax is hard. When you're as you gain more experience, like going from one to the other is not that big a deal. Now, adopting functional programming versus object-oriented programming versus like structured or logic programming, those are different mind shifts, and those are great for you to learn is to like become a better developer. But I wouldn't, like, if you're going for a job, rush out and try to learn OCaml, because that's not something that a lot of people are paying for anyway, even though it might be a fascinating language and useful for you as like a human being to get better at your job. But when it comes to like job hunting, go ahead and look. Make people tell you no. It's like trick-or-treating. You do it until they slam the door in your face.
Something else that I wanted to say is I'll just say this, and I said this on Developer on Fire, right? If I can remember what I said, is they can't deny what you've already accomplished. Okay, I'll say it one more time. They cannot deny what you have already accomplished. Okay, by default, human behavior is to say no. Period. Okay. So what does that mean? To be undeniable, right? Something else I would do if I were in your position, and I'm kind of doing this right now for myself. Be undeniable, all right? So what if you're not gainfully employed within this industry? Who is stopping you from giving presentations on various programming languages or on various frameworks? Join your local user group, okay? And instead of always consuming, instead of always sitting down in the chair and watching, observing, go to the head organizer and be like, yo, I want to present on whatever you're interested in. And you could push it 3 months out. You could push it 6 months out, right? Put yourself in that position where no one can deny that you don't give talks on this technology, on this framework, right? Once you do it, give that same talk somewhere else. You could go take an hour drive to the neighboring city. Ask their user group, hey, I want to do a presentation on this, right? Once you get really, really comfortable, you know what I mean? Reach out to some podcast show and say, I think I could deliver value to you by explaining, the internals of this technology, or talking about this technology. This is what I've learned. I recorded my talk at this user group. Send them the mixtape. That's how I got on .NET Rocks. You know what I mean? So be undeniable. They're going to tell you no. They're going to tell you what you don't have. What you need to do is you need to hack the system and go around it. You know what I mean? You need to cut through it. Everybody else believes that in order for them to have experience, they have to get a job first. What I'm telling you is F that. You get experience by grooming yourself to be the technical authority and going ham. So that's what I would say.
Okay, so I don't really understand like user group, and are you saying like encouraging I just like post videos on YouTube teaching
No,
a specific framework or technology?
well, that's one method. When I say user group, like go to meetup.com.
Yeah, where do you live at, Gabriel?
I'm based out of Miami, but right now I'm in Utah in this boot camp.
Okay, I can see why you might have a little more trouble finding user groups, but there should be some. But all the more reason that the user groups that they do have, I've run a user group before, okay? You never more than a month out for a speaker. You're desperate for speakers. It's so damn hard to get them. Like, and I remember the first time I gave a talk at a user group, I was so nervous that in addition to having walked across the loop in Chicago in 90-degree weather, so I was already sweaty, the nerves made everything even worse to the point where I bent over my computer to advance the slides. I actually saw sweat drip off my face and onto the keyboard. But so like everybody is not these perfect polished people that are speaking at user groups. They all want people. Tell them you'll give like a 10-minute mini talk or a lightning talk, or literally just show up. I mean, frankly, as an entry-level developer, in many ways, you have a lot more opportunities than like someone like Scott does, who's got like experience and therefore has certain salary needs that they need and certain things that they require out of the job, which of course you need salary too. There came the visitor. I told you he'd show up eventually.
Hi. So, I mean, I don't know. People are allowed to disagree with what I think is necessary, but honestly, that's the approach I would take.
Can I say hi?
Okay,
You can
I
wait.
think I think I like that the whole talking thing. But what I have more access to right now, and what I thought of doing, is like teaching what I learned on YouTube, just because it's so much easier for me to just have YouTube and not depend on anybody to, oh yeah, you can talk here or anything like that. YouTube seems really great, but like as a student, have a lot of anxiety of just like, being the spokesman for JavaScript entry level and stuff like that. Like I'm like extremely comfortable with it. Like I can do like medium level katas and stuff like that. So I'm definitely like a great teacher for entry level stuff, but to put yourself on the internet like you do, Scott, I don't even know. That's pretty tough.
Well, you don't.
Dude, do you know how long I've been doing this?
No.
I think I started like YouTubing, like really doing this, going ham. I think like 3 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, and I mean it's really me challenging myself, and it's really me being like, I've had enough life experiences where like I don't think there's really that much for me to lose anymore. So I'm putting myself out here, right? I'm gonna let this universe know how bad I want it, and I think the majority of people. This is me really getting philosophical, but I think within a privileged nation, I think the majority of people have what they have because they deserve it or they don't deserve it. And so I want to demonstrate how bad I deserve it by demonstrating how bad I want it. And so, yeah, if you look at earlier videos of me, I'm a goofball. I probably still am a goofball. I'm trying to figure out like, am I supposed to like entertain who the whopping 2 people that are looking at this video? Do I put on a certain voice? Do I put on a certain costume? There's a lot of things that I experimented with, and I'm still doing it honestly, even right now. But I guess it's the journey, and I mean, it's better than doing absolutely nothing because I guarantee that's the result you're going to get, right? So you got to man up. And if you really want it, man, you got to like just go after it, even if it means being uncomfortable, even if it means you looking stupid or people laughing at you. So what? They ain't gonna laugh at you, you know, when you're making the 150, the 200,000, etc. They ain't gonna laugh then, right? They're gonna be thinking, damn, I could have been doing what he was doing. So the sooner the better.
So the other thing too, I'd say, Gabriel, is if you're talking about presenting something to people, like don't go. So I've done this before, right? Like, so at the beginning, you know, when you asked about Eighth Light and, you know, about Bob Martin's involvement with the company, and, you know, I clarified he's not my boss. But that said, like, I've seen him speak a bunch of times. We know each other, of course. I've gotten to teach classes with him, which is a super privilege. But you cannot go watch someone like Bob give a talk and then try to follow that. Right. I'm actually paraphrasing, of all people, Paul Reiser, who was talking about stand-up comedy when he said, you don't watch the best. You don't watch prime Robin Williams or George Carlin or something and be like, I'm gonna be like that, because you're not inspired by that. What you have to do is go to your average user group. Just go to one nearby and see who's speaking that day. Because whoever's speaking that day is just someone else doing their best. And they only know about 5 minutes more than you do. And that's usually how. Don't go the day when it's filled because a nerd celebrity's showing up and, you know, it's going to be a big quasi development star. Go the day when it's some guy whose kid won't stop diving into the video, right? Like, and you'll see that, like, you know what? I don't have to be a superstar, because superstars weren't always superstars either. You know, I have to be as good or better than that person I just saw to get there. What are you talking about, kiddo?
Okay.
I hope that all made sense.
I know we overwhelmed. I know I overwhelmed you. But yo, I mean, you can hit me up. I have a lot of time on my hands. So yeah, I think I'm done talking. I don't think I have anything else to say. Is there anything? Eric,
I think I probably better get going myself for some reason.
how do people find you?
How do they find me? You can find me the sound mostly. They just travel to. No, they can find me. I'm Peyton Rules on Twitter. I'm PeytonRules.com. You can find me at the Eighth Light website too. But if it's Peyton Rules, and that's Payton, because it's Walter Payton, not Peyton Manning.
Not Gary Payton.
Not Gary Payton either. Stop it. If you find Peyton Rules, that's probably me. My blog's a little stagnant right now because I'm kind of working on revamping a little bit of the topics. But there's a lot on TDD there if you're interested too. So stop it, silly boy.
Yeah, I every once in a while we'll go to the Eighth Light.
Yeah, and I write there sometimes. I just wrote about setting up a TDD environment and closure script. And by sometimes, I mean, I think that was my first blog in 2 years for them. I mostly blog, but I did, Gabriel. Okay, stop it, kiddo. I did actually just blog, or not just blog. I did blog a while back about giving presentations and some of the things you can do to prepare yourself for doing that. Because I'm nowhere in league of like a keynote speaker, but I'm getting much better at it. And I was sort of pointing other people in the direction of, how do you go from being a person who drips sweat onto the monitor? I don't know why Gary Cooper either. To drip sweat onto the monitor to looking like a professional on stage, and how do you learn how to do that? And it is a huge career booster.
Okay.
Oh, good stuff. I really appreciate you, Eric, having a conversation with me.
I appreciate you inviting me.
I think this is good stuff, man. I think this is some good information. So
I appreciate you inviting me on.
Gabriel, thanks for like joining in. I get tired of switching back and forth between my browser windows to see what questions are on there. And you told me you were going to. You told me you were going to be on here next Sunday.
Yeah, next week. Yeah. No, definitely coming up was a little easier, just trying to really get a good answer from you guys so I can phrase my question better and stuff. So thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, we're good. All right, so I'm about to like terminate this broadcast. And 3, 2, 1.